Joining us now is Democratic Senator Bob Menendez of New Jersey. He is the chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. Senator, it is great to see you. I thank you for your time. I know that you've taken part in 2 classified briefings on China in recent days. What were your takeaways, Senator?
Well, my takeaways, in the first instance, I have no concern in terms of these objects of a physical threat to the United States. And as we deduce more information, as we recover the parts of the other downed entities, we'll have a better, clearer picture. But it does speak volumes about that, assuming they're all either research or corporate devices that were put into the atmosphere, there needs to be a way to both have them be identified. They have to have a ability to have an emitting device for which we can identify them, and also we have to control the airspace domain where there are civilian aircraft that might ultimately collide with these entities. So I think it's a little bit of a Wild West, and that has to be tamed, and I think that's an opportunity for U.S. leadership, not just over our airspace, but internationally. As it relates to China, it's our biggest geostrategic challenge. It continues to be. It is clear, despite what China wants to say, that balloon was clearly a surveillance balloon, and whether they intended or didn't intend to have it cross over the United States, they're responsible for their actions, and it's incredibly irresponsible not to answer the hotline phone when our head of the Department of Defense, Secretary Austin, is calling to make sure that we don't have any unintended consequences.
What is going on there, Senator? What do you attribute that to?
The unwillingness of China to pick up the phone?
Yeah.
Listen, I think they very often play to a domestic audience as well, and a global audience of this projection of power, so to speak. But I think at the end of the day, they understand that having a process for deconfliction, for eliminating the possibility of a wrongful mistake that would be really consequential, is important. But they are looking, they care very much about their image. And right now, with all of the consequences they've had, not only with the balloon that crossed the United States, but we've been able to identify others that are crossing over other countries and interfering with their sovereignty, that they have a global challenge right now. And so they're trying to look tough, but at the end of the day, we need to be smart because we don't need a conflict that is unintended as a result of not picking up the phone and misinterpreting any actions of the United States, or for that fact, any other country.
And Senator, turning to some other news, President Biden is looking to confirm his pick to lead the IRS. You have the opportunity to question him during a hearing on Wednesday. What were your takeaways?
Well, he seems to be a well-qualified candidate, seems to understand the nature. One of the things that I drive, that I led 8 letters with colleagues, is to get the IRS to do the basics, to answer the phone, answer the mail, send out a refund in a timely manner. This is what the American people expect at a minimum. And for too long, if you are a taxpayer and you're calling the IRS hotline to figure out an answer to a question, you wouldn't get an answer. So we are now up, as a result of my efforts and others, to where the IRS is answering 90% of all of the calls. We want to continue that performance and make it even better. And we also want to make sure that we have an IRS that can be responsive to the American taxpayer. And so that was the focus of the questions, and I think the nominee answered them pretty well, all in all.
And Senator, before I let you go, I know there's going to be an open position at the Federal Reserve shortly. You've been so outspoken about the need for diversity at the Fed. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, in the 109-plus years history of the Federal Reserve, we have never had a Hispanic on the Federal Reserve. And why is it important? Because this is the largest minority in the country, $2 trillion domestic marketplace impact, younger by a decade than the overall population. having the knowledge of the impacts of the Federal Reserve, whether it be on rate hikes, monetary policy, or their dual obligation for full employment, having that voice be there is incredibly important. We have other voices there, but we haven't had our voice. And as a growing part of the marketplace, and as a growing part of the American population, I think it's essential. And there is no reason why the administration cannot put forward somebody who is qualified. I know several people who have, the economist background, who have the financial service backgrounds, the requisite backgrounds. We're sending some of those names to the White House. I'm sure they could deduce other. They have to have the will to ultimately nominate somebody of Hispanic descent to the Federal Reserve who is qualified to help us lead on monetary policy and employment policy.
Voices are so important everywhere, Senator, including in the U.S. Senate, the Latino member of the Senate representing New Jersey. I thank you, Senator, for being with us this morning.
Thank you, Jose. It's also important on TV.
Thank you. Appreciate that.